Hello and welcome. My name is Hannah, and today we're going to be doing some still life practice with this really cute doll. I am mostly excited about it, but a little bit nervous because there's so much going on with this doll that just feels like a lot. So I'm going to do my best. And I'm also doing it with oil pastels, so that's going to be fun. I started off drawing her, and then I quickly realized that my favorite thing, the lighting and the shadows, is non-existent. So I took out a flashlight and I made her have some cool lighting and shadows. And I used my phone stand to prop up the flashlight, which I was unusually proud of. I felt like that was like the coolest MacGyvering in the planet of Hannah. Anyway, I'm using this blending tool today, which I have had really good luck with it in the past. And so I'm using it again today because it's really nice to not have to blend with my fingers because it hurts my fingers to blend oil pastels. I have actually seen people using gloves when they work with oil pastels, and I think that's genius. However, I don't like the feeling of gloves on my hands either. So I'm kind of textured out. So this is like the best alternative to using gloves. Now, when I started drawing her, I went with a yellow tone, and then I started adding all the cool colors on top of that until I realized she was too yellow and I needed to even out her skin tone and add pink. So that's what I did. I just went over all of the yellow stuff with a pink color and then blended it all together. And now that I have a good base color, then I can start adding in all the funky colors and stuff to make it look like her. But I also remembered what I learned from my portrait sketching, that doing the eyes first is going to be so helpful. Okay, this part's kind of cool. I twisted the scratchy part of the tool to get the oil pastel off of where I wanted the shine. And then I added a little dot of white on top. And since the surface had already been scratched up, the white had something to grip to. So the shine of the eye just became that much brighter. And then once I got the eye down, then I wanted to start working into the shadows underneath her eye. And this shadow right here I was trying to figure out what color that should be. If it should be purple or green. And now that I'm looking at it as a viewer, it looks purple. But naturally I went with green. We know how I feel about green, especially on the face. I just love it so much. So I went with the green. And then I moved on to the other eye. I was having a bit of a problem trying to figure out what system I wanted to go with when I was drawing this face. I was kind of going back and forth between drawing her features and then drawing the color blocks of areas. So that's why I did like the shadow and the cheek first, and then I moved to the eyes. It all just kind of seems a little bit random because it kind of was. But I decided after a minute that my best way to move forward with this would be to start blocking in all of the colors. And the reason why I decided to start moving forward with that tactic was because I don't have an initial sketch for her. I'm kind of freehanding this. So I kind of figured that if I could do big blocks of shapes and colors, then I could figure out more easily without having to guess so much where the features were supposed to be accurately. So why am I drawing her? This is a good question because dolls freak me out, okay? But I was scouring my house looking for something to draw and nothing was really exciting for me. So I drove down to Goodwill and looked for something to give me, I don't know, some kind of excitement to get going on a new project. And I saw her, and immediately her mouth and like the line between her cheeks and her mouth, the cheek line? What is that called? Anyway, I think you know what I'm talking about in that picture there. That line right there was so cute, and I was like, oh my gosh, I have to draw this, even though I don't want her in my house whatsoever. It was very funny because I brought her home and my daughter was like, what did you get? What did you get? And I showed her, and she had the biggest deer in the headlights. She was like, Mom, get it out of here. Apparently she's just as scared of dolls as I am. So anyway, that's kind of a segue into, I kind of have been tinkering with the idea of starting like a drawing club. Okay, hold on. Because right here in the video, I'm doing this weird thing with my hand, and what I'm doing is I'm drawing like an invisible line upwards from the corner of the mouth to see if there's any kind of landmark that I can gauge where the corner of the mouth needs to start. So I went from the corner of the mouth and then I went up and found, oh hey, inside corner of the left eye is on the same vertical line. So that's how I knew where the mouth was supposed to start. And it's actually kind of funny because I draw outside of that line and accidentally make the mouth too small like 7 times, and I have to redraw it. Anyway, it was really frustrating. And then I moved into the hat, and I had no idea how to get this texture down because it's not a fabric, and like it is almost a lacy type thing, and there is a little bit of lace on it, but I was like, oh my gosh, how do I do this? And I tried to get like some kind of texture down. I didn't like it, and then I drew over it, and I'm like, okay, I'll come back to that later. And then I started on this hand, and it sent me for like a 2-hour-long tizzy for like, what is happening? I don't know how to breathe anymore because I've been holding my breath this whole time, trying to see what am I doing? Nothing is working. And then suddenly it just kind of came together at the end. I don't really know exactly what happened. It just kind of happened. So I started talking a little bit about a drawing club, and it's been like a cool kind of dream of mine to have like an item that gets sent between people and then somebody else can draw it, and then they can send it to somebody else and then somebody else can draw it. I think that would be so much fun. How do you start that? I don't know, but maybe this could be the first thing, and that would be really beneficial for me and the mental health of my daughter because she's terrified of this thing and we can't have it in our house anymore. So if somebody else wants it, it's not evil, okay? Geez, the way that I'm making this doll sound, she has an actual life. She doesn't. She's been still the whole time and she doesn't blink, okay? So I am 99.9% sure that it's just a doll. Yeah. Fun fact, my grandma actually used to make porcelain dolls, and she made me one. I might have actually told this story before, but she made me one for when I was born, and it was like the same size as me. But as I grew up, I became terrified of it, and it became like this torture of my siblings to like hide it in my bed. So when I pulled back the covers, the doll would just be like staring at me, and it would freak me out, and I would run out of the room and just scream. They also, whenever I was going to the bathroom, they would put it outside the door, so when I opened the door, I'd have to like panic jump over it as fast as I could. Anyway, what was I saying? Oh, the drawing club thing. So I want to list this doll on my Ko-fi account, and I've never shipped anything there before, but I'm gonna list it. Unfortunately, I don't know how much shipping is gonna cost for international stuff, so for now, since this is my first time shipping anything, if anybody ends up buying it, it's just going to be for the US because I don't know about shipping and stuff. And then we can start our own little drawing club, and I think it would be really fun. So yeah, check out my Ko-fi if you're interested in buying this doll so that you can draw it. Now, I'm pointing at this hand to see like where the line is, where everything needs to line up, because I think my sketch is wrong. And based on where all the lines are, it's right parallel with her nose. So it needs to be on the same line as her nose and this edge of her hat right here. So I move her hand. And it's funny because one hand was great. I felt like I was on top of the world because that first hand ended up so good. But doing 2 hands somehow feels really unnecessary and redundant. But now that I've gone through that, the good of the other hand, now I know that it's going to be really ugly for a really long time before this second hand looks good. So I feel a little less insecure doing this second hand because I trust that the ugly stage isn't going to last forever. It actually started to get really difficult to get all the super fine details in with these oil pastel sticks, and that is something that I like to challenge myself with, is doing really small stuff with really big mediums, which we know is like a problem that I have. But because these oil pastels are getting so dull, like the tips are getting so round, it is really difficult, like almost too difficult to, okay, I'm trying to find the right color for the dress. That's what I was doing. But it was getting really difficult to get to know where the tip was going to lay. So that was a struggle. I did end up taking the wrapper off of the butt of a few of them, so that I could get a nice like sharp point again. And now that I say this, because I struggle so much with it, I should probably be okay with cutting them in the future so that I can just always have a fresh tip on them. Anyway, oh, this part was so interesting. Since they snapped, I looked at the inside of them and it was so cool. It looked like a freaking tree trunk. Who knew? Okay, so on to the drawing again. I started to draw in the dress, and this part was the thing that I was so unsure of, because it has the dress, but then she also has like a white mesh piece on top of the dress to make it look really sheer and see-through. And I had no clue how I was going to draw that, but then as soon as I started adding in the color, I didn't have a color that was exactly what I wanted for the dress. So to mix the colors, I wanted to dull down the color a little bit, and I added white on top. And then it started to just look like exactly what I needed the dress to look like, which was such a cool like happenstance. When does that ever happen? So before I got too far on the dress where it was gonna start being really messy on my hands and I was gonna start smudging things, I decided to jump back into the hat and try to give it a little bit more attention. And I honestly couldn't tell you what I was doing, because I still don't know what I was doing. The hat ends up looking just kind of like this. How are you supposed to get a really interesting details on it? I think I kind of ended up just leaving it how it is. Maybe I go back to it. I don't really remember. I kind of blocked it out. But yeah, I went back into the dress and had way more fun with the dress than I thought I was ever gonna have. So this is really off topic, but I watch Gilmore Girls every year, and for some reason this year I actually started watching it early. Usually I watch it in fall time, and I watched it in the summertime, and so it took me a really long time to get into it because I was watching it at the wrong time. But I was out of anything to watch and I needed some background noise, so I was like, well, Gilmore Girls, I guess we're here early. And you guys, they took it off of Netflix, and I knew it was coming, but it didn't have the little banner that said leaving soon on it, so I was in the middle of, honestly, probably the worst part. Honestly, the worst part of the show, where Rory breaks up with Jess, or Jess just left, and she goes back to Dean, who just got married. So yeah, worst part. Anyway, I really just wanted to see Lorelai and Luke get together for the 17th time, okay? Anyway, I forgot to talk at all about the bottom half of her. So I realized once I started drawing like past like her lower half that since I didn't sketch her out, she wasn't centered in the page, and that was kind of starting to bother me until I realized I could just move the tape up and not draw her, like I could center her, you know what I mean? She does end up a little bit further to the right than I would have wanted, but oh well, what can you do? That's just kind of what's going to happen when you don't sketch it out, you know? You're going to make mistakes like that, and no big deal. Now, I drew orange right here because that's what I could see in real life when I was looking at her, was the glow of her dress was making my desk look orange. And then as soon as I drew it, I was like, oh my gosh, this looks like blood. So I tried to cover it up with brown, and I think it turned out really good. I'm glad I did that. Now, there is a part of the dress on the very right that was behind her, and it looks like it's this part right here. It looked like it was blending in too much with the part in front of it, so I wanted to separate it from the other part of the dress. and make it look like it was behind her, and I fuzzed it out really a lot. Also, her feet turned out so cute. I wanted to do them a little minimal so that the focus was mainly on her head. I don't know if that was a good idea or if I should have put more focus on her feet. I don't know, you'll have to let me know. But this is how the whole thing turned out. I think it was so cool. This was a cool kind of experiment to see if I could put all of my energy on one thing, how it would turn out. And I think it turned out really good. I'm glad that I did this. I might cut this part off at the bottom, but then again, she's also not centered anyway, so will it really matter? I don't know. So thank you so much for hanging out with me, and I will see you in the next one. Toodaloo!